will be the most beautiful day.
All right. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight for our Ukraine War Report for the 9th of June, 2022. We're coming at you guys a little bit later than usual tonight. It's about 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, about 6 a.m., I think, Ukraine time currently right now. Usually we come to you guys around 8 p.m. on weekdays. However, I was a little delayed today. So we're coming at you with a late night report tonight on this beautiful Thursday night. Hello to everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight, for stopping by, taking a little time out of your evening to get updated on what is going on in Ukraine in this ongoing and very bloody conflict, which is well over the 100th day now. I believe, are we on day 109? 108? Let me see here. Let me check. I believe it's day 107. 107 today. 107 days that this war has been ongoing since the 24th of February. So tonight we're going to be doing things slightly differently. I'm going to be kind of taking a more lax approach tonight, and we're going to, of course, we're going to start with our main headlines as usual. But before we get to that, I'm going to, just kind of say hello to everybody. We're going to do our gas price roundup first tonight. Actually, before we start everything, there's after we kind of, say hi to all you guys in the chat here. There's one main headline that we're going to cover first before all else, because I feel it is important for us to cover this. Again, just big shout out to everybody that's stopping by tonight. Patty Whack, thank you so much for swinging by tonight. Epi, nice to see you. I saw in the chat there you just got done having a stack of pancakes and a cup of hot cocoa. What a wonderful dessert to have before heading off to bed there. As usual, it's always great to have you in the chat, man. It's always good to have our Scotsman here, increase in morale in the live chats. Joshua, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, but Lauxi46, Lauxi, thank you so much for tuning in. It says, haven't tuned in much since this all started, and you spotted one of the first convoys on CCTV. Glad you're still doing what you do here. And, yep, as I said multiple times, we're not going anywhere until this conflict has come to a close. We're going to be here bringing you guys reports, bringing you guys these live streams. Not just that, but I have some video content as well, kind of covering this, just kind of the war on Ukraine. Not just the war, but kind of what we've been doing here. I got some video content coming down the pipeline. We're going to be talking about some of the, just some kind of like the background here of what we've been doing, and kind of going in depth on some of the tools we've been using and how they're useful to us, and how we track, how we're tracking intel, how we're gathering intel, and how it's different from how it was done, in previous wars, given all these open source tools that we have at our disposal. And I got some cool video content coming down the pipeline for you guys, so I'm pretty excited for that. X Custom Cluster, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Unstinkable asks, are they going to be at this time from now on? Nope, this is just a one-off thing this evening. I was running behind a little bit today, so we're coming to you guys for a little bit of a late night report this evening. Speedy Squirrel, glad to see you. TBUK, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Says, is this a music lesson? Well, I believe the intro, I guess we could consider as a music lesson. So quite a few of you have really liked that intro track. Some of you have asked who that artist is. That artist is he's a guy named Professor Click. I've been listening to him for a long time. He lists all of his music as Creative Commons, or at least his older albums were all listed as royalty-free Creative Commons. Pretty cool stuff. He's a really cool guy, really good DJ, really good music producer. Miss Tiger Eye 912, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Deborah, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. James L, thank you so much for tuning in this evening. In fact, James, I think you had a question earlier in chat. I think you asked, are we going to see kind of a situation like we did with Germany, with the West and East Germany? Yeah, I mean, we arguably already have had that. With Donetsk and Luhansk, and the LPR and the DPR, and again with Crimea as well. You could even argue that we've already had that prior to the invasion. This kind of division here in Ukraine between the West and the East. But yeah, I mean there is some substance to that. Towards again, depending on how this turns out down the road, weeks and possibly even months from now, when this war finally comes to an end, we might be left with a Ukraine that is split in two, divided west and east. However, the Ukrainians, more specifically President Zelensky, has said multiple times that they will never accept any loss of territory to the Russians, to the Russian Federation. David, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Mike Barry says changing history. Well, that's very flattering, Mike. Thank you so much for tuning back in this evening. Again, just going through the live chat here and reading some comments here and saying hello to all y'all before we get into our main headlines this evening. Mother Saki, I'm pretty sure you posted some stuff in the Situation Room on Discord, if I'm not mistaken. If you're the same user there. And we'll be getting to that when we hop over into our community aggregated reports later this evening. We're going to go through all of those that have posted in the Situation Room today. Der Klavispieler, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, says, hi, Nemico. Hello there, Der Klavispieler, longtime viewer. Thank you so much for tuning back in. I guess we could start with our fuel prices, our fuel price roundup, as we've been calling it. And I actually have a little bit of a tool here this evening. Here we go. So right here is, this is from AAA. This is gasprices.aaa.com. A quick Google search on my part could have found this way early on and could have made our job a little bit easier here when doing this gas price roundup. Let's switch over to our big screen real quick, Where is it? Here we go. Okay, so Dylan Williams says it is $4.69 a gallon in southeast Tennessee. Let's find Tennessee here. About $4.62. So that is right around what we're seeing here on this website here. Again, that's gasprices.aaa.com if you guys want to take a look at this. Pretty useful resource here. Let's get my mouse on screen. There we go. Okay, so Tennessee here, $4.62. Let's see here. Have we had Hugo? Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Let's see if we have anybody. Okay, Speedy Squirrel says fuel in the UAE is currently $4.20 a gallon. We had a 20% increase last week. So Speedy Squirrel, I'm pretty sure that's. You guys have pretty reasonable prices there in the UAE, if I'm not mistaken. Am I wrong about that? I'm pretty sure you guys usually have pretty good fuel prices. $4.20, that's pretty high, I would imagine, for the UAE. However, nowhere near what we're seeing here in the States now. So if you notice here, down here, and I've got to move my head here. Okay, so national retail prices, again, you can see kind of the color shading here. Dark red is about $6, $5. White is about $5 to $4. So it's a little bit confusing how they have the legend set up here, but you kind of get an idea. Again, especially when you just kind of hover over it, you can see the whole West Coast, right down to Arizona. From Washington down to Arizona, everything is over $5. California is $6, $7 a gallon in some places. You can actually click on the states here specifically and look at some individual counties here. So in this county here, it's $7.22 a gallon. That is pretty hefty price there for fuels at this time. So I mean, for a lot of you that are viewing from outside of the United States, I guess this probably won't be really relevant to you. But arguably you guys are also experiencing increased fuel prices. Mother Saki says Costco $5.34 retail, $5.90 in Surprise, Arizona right now. If some of you guys that are outside the U.S., please sound off in the chat. I want to hear what your fuel prices are like right now. Just Me says $5.15 for regular, $5.99 for diesel. The prices continue to go up, especially for diesel. I've noticed diesel has increased significantly over the past week. I've seen a significant price of diesel in my area here. Pennsylvania is about $5. New York $5. Maine $5. So right along the East Coast here, northern East Coast here, you see a pretty stark price increase. Texas, though, of course, they got a lot of fuel down in Texas. They're doing pretty good. $4.62. Not too bad. Lauxi says, but I guess Canadian gas being $9 Canadian a gallon is like 50 cents USD. I don't think that's correct with the conversion there. Is it? That can't be. That can't be. Combo of Rocks says $4.59 Northwest Arkansas. Michael Sorensen says New York City is in some places. The chat updated way too quickly there. Let me see here. New York City in some places are $4.50 to $7 a gallon in New York. In fact, let's go to New York here. Let's get a zoom in on New York here. So in the Bronx, we got about $5 a gallon. Kings, $5 a gallon. Richmond, Westchester. In Dutchess, about $5. Essex, $5. Clinton, $5. Franklin, $5. St. Lawrence, $5. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything above the $5 mark, but still, I mean, that's insane. That's absolutely insane prices. That's pretty high. White Queso says $6.99 for premium in Sacramento. That is pretty rough. TB UK says $1.80 a liter in UK. Not sure the conversion there, but I think that's pretty high, if I'm not mistaken. Titan Intel says $5.19 north of Boston. Lauxi 46 says Saskatchewan, Canada, $2.25 a liter, so about $9 a gallon in conversion. That is pretty rough. Hugo, thank you so much for tuning in tonight, says, I actually got gas today, spent about $30. It was $6.99 a gallon. Only 4 gallons went into the car. Nothing really. Yeah, so I've heard from people in Poland. I've heard from people in the UK. I've heard from people in many different places in Europe, and they're all experiencing increased prices as well. Some places is really rough. Some of those countries that have been cut off from Russian fuel in recent weeks and months have seen extreme increases in fuel prices. However, there's been kind of deviations. We had a little bit of a dip there for a while. Even in the U.S., it kind of went back down for a minute, and we even stopped doing the gas price roundup for a minute there during our reports. We weren't even paying attention to it. And now, again, with the summer rush, and I talked about this last night, it's kind of, we got a mix between the summer rush and the direct consequences from the war. Those are the two things really that are driving this price increase. You have, again, the alienation of Russian oil, and you have the summer rush. Lauxi46 says $9 Canadian is actually $7 USD. So yeah, that sounds a little bit more reasonable. Bobby Regalia Jr., thank you so much for tuning back in this evening. He says Nemico Network regular unleaded is $5.09 to $5.60-ish. Diesel is about $6 to $7 here in Washington State. That sounds about consistent with what we see on our screen here. There are some places that are significantly higher. You got $5.67 there, with a contrast of about $5.25 on the other side in Spokane. Yeah, definitely not where we would like to see those prices. White Queso says fuel is beginning, food and supply is next. Well, arguably, we're already seeing the increase in food prices. In fact, somebody last night in chat said that we should do a milk price roundup. How much milk is per gallon? I actually don't have that number off the top of my head for my area right now, but I can tell you it's not cheap. It's about $4 a gallon. About $3.70 to $4, somewhere in there, per gallon of milk where we are at. So, and I know that's not just milk, but all food across the board has increased in price significantly in just about the past 4 weeks, I would say. So anyway, without further ado, we're going to get into tonight's reporting. Okay, so again, just really quickly, thank you to everybody that is stopping by this evening. Actually, we have one more that I want to. We have one more fuel price here. Unstinkable says Nemico Network, we're paying $10.04 a gallon in the Netherlands at the moment. Get on our level, he says. Well, Unstinkable, hats off to you. F's in chat, you guys, for Unstinkable and his fuel prices. That is rough. That is absolutely devastating. $10 a gallon in Netherlands, where Unstinkable is tuning in from. White Queso says I paid $6.99 for a gallon of milk today. LOL. That is rough. That is rough. Loxy46 says milk in Canada about $8 per gallon currently. That is also pretty high. So, this evening, I had one article out of all of the others that I wanted to start with, because I felt it was important for me to do so. Okay? In recent weeks, we've talked about the situation in Mariupol and what came of some of the fighters in Mariupol. On last night's report, I talked about 2 British citizens and a Moroccan that had been captured in Mariupol. They were being held in Mariupol, and they were waiting trial. Okay, they were being put on trial on charges of basically mercenary. Charges of being a mercenary. I forgot exactly what the specific wording was there, but it was something along the lines of forcibly trying to seize power, and something like that. And basically, it was just, I made the point last night that it was hypocritical for the DPR to charge them with that, I guess, especially when the Russian forces are doing that exact thing, forcibly seizing power and occupying territory. So anyway, we've had an update today. So it does look like, unfortunately, those 2 British citizens, Aidan Aslan and Sean Pinner of the United Kingdom, and Sadoum Brahim from Morocco, have been accused of being mercenaries and have been dealt death sentences. They've been, again, given death sentences for fighting in Ukraine. Again, in a court in the pro-Russian separatist Donetsk region, Russia's RIA Novosti reported that Aidan Aslan and Sean Pinner of the United Kingdom and Sadoun Brahim from Morocco they have been officially accused of being mercenaries, and they've now been, again, found guilty and have been given those death sentences. Again, they surrendered in Mariupol back in April. They now have a month to appeal the sentence. Again, that came from that state news agency. The British Foreign Secretary condemned the ruling as, quote, a sham judgment with absolutely no legitimacy. Again, when that news broke today, I felt I needed to cover that first on tonight's report, especially since we talked about it on last night's report. I felt it was important for us to talk about those 2 British citizens and that Moroccan, again, who have been dealt death sentences for defending Ukraine, for fighting in Mariupol. Again, especially, you got to realize this. They were captured in Mariupol. Okay, that is an area that was under Ukrainian control prior to the war. With that, we're going to start our primary headlines for this evening, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't already, please hit that like button. It is the best way to get the algorithm's attention. It helps get this information into the hands of a lot more people here on YouTube and on Twitch. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to get notified when new videos and new live streams go live. On tonight's big headlines, again, the battle for the Donbas is in the midst of being decided right now as we speak. Okay, right now as we speak, the fate of the Donbas is being fought over at this very moment. Russian forces control most of the city of Severodonetsk in eastern Ukraine, with Ukrainians holding ground in its industrial zone. Again, last night I was drawing connections between Mariupol and the fighting and how it carried out there, with how the Ukrainians, eventually fell back to that industrial zone and held out there. I was kind of drawing correlations between that and what we're seeing happen in Severodonetsk now at this very moment in time. Again, the Ukrainians have fallen back. They are holding ground in its industrial zone there in Severodonetsk. Again, the governor of Luhansk said earlier today on social media, he confirmed that, again, that those soldiers were still holding their ground in that industrial zone. I'm not sure of the name of that, that exact industrial zone. I believe it's just referred to as the Severodonetsk industrial zone, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to try to get some more precise and specific information for you guys for future reports here coming up this week. We're going to kind of do a little bit of in-depth on what's going on in Severodonetsk, what's going on in and around that industrial zone. Again, I predict, and again, this is just me speculating here, I predict that we're probably going to see a similar situation that we did with the Avastal Steelworks here in Severodonetsk. I just have a feeling, a gut feeling, that we're going to see the Ukrainians, again, holding out there for a while in that steelworks, in that industrial zone there. Again, very similar to the Avastal Steelworks. You got, all these industrial buildings. You have tunnels. You have all of these, this infrastructure that they can hold their ground in. Again, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky described the battle as, quote, the epicenter and the key to the fate of the Donbas region. Both sides are believed to be suffering heavy losses in the urban fighting, but are keeping casualty figures quiet. Western intelligence agencies say that Russian victory in Severodonetsk would allow Russia to continue pushing farther into parts of eastern Ukraine. Again, if they got that foothold in Severodonetsk, and I can show you on the map, I'm going to show you guys here on the map quickly before we carry on why this is so important. Why Severodonetsk specifically, why Lysychansk and Severodonetsk specifically are very important, okay? This area here, Severodonetsk and Lysychansk, this is the most urban, populated, built-up area in this whole region, okay? This is like a mecca, city mecca here compared to the outlying areas, these smaller villages and towns here. If they hold these areas here, it will be very easy for them to close this gap here on this pincer movement. They'll trap all the Ukrainian forces that are in this region behind enemy lines. The aim there is to keep them from withdrawing those forces westward. If the Ukrainians if the Ukrainians lose this territory, they can at least fall back. They can hold up defensive positions here, right? But if the Russians are able to conduct this pincer movement here, those Ukrainian forces will not be, at least as many of them will not be able to fall back. They won't be able to retreat. And so the Russians possibly will be able to capitalize on that and take over more of this area here in the east, more of this territory here in the east. If Severodonetsk and Lysychansk fall, and that pincer movement is able to be conducted, we will most likely see the Russians then move on areas like Slavyansk, Kramatorsk, and a lot of these villages and cities here. We could see another pincer movement conducted from here and here as they try to capture the rest of the Donbas region, which is basically this whole chunk here. They need to basically consume this whole chunk of land here in order for them to again officially say that they have captured the Donbas. Arguably, if they do have success doing that, they might continue to go further eastward. We've talked about those possibilities. We've talked about the possibility of them moving, further westward, not eastward, further westward here, down by Odessa, possibly looking to take Mykolaiv, possibly even Odessa. However, as this war drags on, it seems less and less likely that they will decide to do so, but we don't like to jump to any conclusions. These are possibilities that, again, we have to be aware of. These are, these are probably right in Putin's playbook. If he sees an opportunity, he's going to seize it. Again, if he sees an opportunity and has a chance to take something like Odessa or Mykolaiv, especially after they've captured the Donbas, he might continue onward. So we're gonna have to stay vigilant here. However, on the other side of the coin, on the other side of the token, you have the possibility here that the Ukrainians will be able to start pushing back into some of these areas here in the east, as they have in many areas. especially here up by Kharkiv. You can see they have been able to heavily push back the Russian forces in and around Kharkiv, as well as the north. It remains to be seen if they will be able to mount some of those same counteroffensives here in the east. They have on a small scale in areas. Again, we've called the Russian advances here anemic, as they take territory and then hours later the Ukrainians usually will take it right back. Like the Russians will take a village, and then within 6 to 12 hours the Ukrainians usually storm right back in and take the territory back over. So again, moving on, radiation detectors. We talked about Chernobyl. We've talked about Zaporizhzhia. In fact, I wanted to go into this last night. Again, I've mentioned that up in Chernobyl, those nuclear radiation levels are now reported to be back to normal levels since the Russians have pulled out of that region. Radiation detectors at that nuclear power plant in Chernobyl are officially back online from a statement from the International Atomic Energy Agency. They say the detectors have found normal radiation levels at the Chernobyl site. Again, one of the world's most nuclear, the site of one of the most worst nuclear disasters, again, which occurred in 1986. After Russia seized the plant on the first day of its invasion in February, I wouldn't say the first day, because it took them a few days to actually seize the plant and the outlying territory in whole. In those days following that, though, we did notice spikes of radiation on those monitoring sites, which were then subsequently taken offline by those Russian forces after they captured the Chernobyl plant, after they captured the nuclear site there. Again, Russia's actions in the area raised international concerns that they could cause radiation to spike in the exclusion zone around the plant if they mistakenly struck the plant itself or one of the radioactive containment areas. Since the Russians have pulled out, we have again seen evidence that not only was it just the disruption of some of those waste storage sites, but not just that, but the disruption of the ground itself, as they were digging trenches. They were digging foxholes and trenches. Again, the artillery shells, the movement of vehicles, stirred up a lot of radioactive materials that hung around in the zone for quite a while, days if not weeks. However, the radiation detectors, again, just to reiterate here, have now reported all those levels are back at normal ranges in the Chernobyl zone. A Ukrainian court upheld a ban on a political party with ties to Russia. President Vladimir Zelensky signed a law last month banning pro-Russian parties from government. The law allows the Justice Ministry to seize the assets of any party that, quote, glorifies or justifies any armed aggression against Ukraine. Before Russia's invasion, the only pro-Russian party in parliament held out about 1/10 of seats. After the invasion, the party disbanded, rebranded, and came back with an anti-war stance, but officials ordered the party to liquidate. Now there's no official pro-Russian position in Ukraine's government for the first time since the independence about 30 years ago. At least 4.8 million refugees from Ukraine are now in Europe, according to the United Nations Refugee Agency, also known as the UNHCR. The updated figure is based on data from national authorities and reflects Ukrainians' movements into different countries as well as those returning home since the Russian invasion began on the 24th of February. Again, as of Tuesday, the agency recorded about 7.3 million border crossings from Ukraine and another 2.3 million crossings back into the country. That about concludes our primary headlines for this evening. We're now going to switch over to our community aggregated news from you beautiful, wonderful people. Again, over on the Discord community server, more specifically from our situation room in the Discord server. Again, to all of you that are up all hours of the day and night collecting and aggregating this news and these reports, hats off to you guys. You guys are what makes this possible. Lauxy46 says, I'd love to hear anemic as a description for the Russian war machine as often as I can. Our first post this evening comes from A Fire Life 2. This comes from The Independent on Twitter. We're going to switch over to our main screen here so we can see what there is to see here. Again, this is coming from The Independent, a verified Twitter source, a pretty well-known news outlet here. Exclusive: Ukrainian forces outgunned up to 40-1 by Russian forces. A report seen by The Independent says the worsening situation in the Donbas, with up to 100 soldiers being killed a day, is having a seriously demoralizing effect on Ukrainian forces, as well as very real material effect. Cases of desertion are growing every week. So I would like to reiterate here, this is not just the case for the Ukrainians, but this is also the case, in some cases even more so, for the Russians. We have seen desertions on both sides, on both the Ukrainian side and the Russian side. That's just part of war. That's how things work. However, the Russians have seen probably, I would say, an increased share of the desertions, especially once those troops are inside Ukraine. We've heard many reports of Russian soldiers deserting their posts, fleeing into Ukraine, and seeking asylum in Ukraine itself. Again, not to return to Russia. Again, this war, the loss that is occurring in Ukraine is not only demoralizing for the Ukrainians, but it's demoralizing especially for the Russians, given that they are the invading force. Most of those soldiers do not want to be there. Most of them do not want to be in Ukraine. And so their numbers, their loss numbers, especially being on the offensive. Okay, think about it this way: the Ukrainians are in defensive positions. The Russians are on the offensive. All right, thus they are having a higher amount of casualties. On the second hand, you also have the fact that most of those Russian soldiers, they realize that they are the aggressor, and that they're not really supposed to be there in Ukraine. Many of them, we've heard reports of this, many of those Russian soldiers were told they were going on training exercises, and then all of a sudden they were cast onto the front lines, and here we are weeks and months later, again on day 107 of this ongoing and very bloody conflict. The total number of Russian soldiers being held by Ukraine has fallen to 550 from 900 in April after a series of exchanges. We've talked about that many times. Moscow, meanwhile, has more than 5,600 Ukrainian troops in captivity. The Independent witnessed losses being inflicted on the Ukrainian military and lack of long-range firepower to fight back. One soldier interviewed has since been killed and another 3 were injured. Again, I'm just kind of going through some of their recent tweets here from the Independent. Again, thank you to A Fire Life 2 for posting that in the Situation Room. I believe here I had an article that was sent to me earlier today talking about those gas prices that we opened the show with. I'll read a little bit from this article here. The U.S. average for the price of a gallon of regular gas hits $4.96, according to the most recent reading from the AAA, again, that website we were looking at just a minute ago. It marked the 12th straight day and the 29th time in the last 30 that the gas has set a record in America. For much of the country, $5 gas is already here. There are now 16 states plus Washington, D.C. with averages of $5 or above. Again, it talks about, I talked about this earlier, the reasons why here, okay? And a lot of people lost, I saw a few people last night in the chat kind of confused on this. And again, we'll kind of reiterate here. It's not just, so it's two things here. You have, again, and they talk about it right here, the summer travel season, just getting underway, increasing the demand for gasoline. That's not just a problem in the United States, it's a problem in every country, all right? It's a problem globally. You have that then coupled with the cutoff of Russian oil shipments, the alienation of Russian oil. I've talked about this as well, all right? Directly due to the war in Ukraine, that is what is sending these prices higher, all right? It's those two reasons right there when it comes down to it. Our next post tonight comes from Rat Lady. I believe she is also known as Mother Saki, if I'm not mistaken. Stephen Gregory says, "Evening, Nemico. Thank you so much for stopping by tonight, Stephen Gregory." Michelle Welch, thank you so much for stopping by this evening. To everybody, thank you so much for swinging by tonight to get updated on what is going on in Ukraine. We just got done with our main headlines, and we're just starting on our community aggregated reporting here. So again, this next post, again, coming from Rat Lady here. This comes from an unverified Twitter source, so keep that in mind. However, we're going to go ahead and read this here. Talks about major Ukrainian success. Yesterday, June 9th, Ukrainian artillery with precision strikes eliminated Russian invaders from Wagner units, which were stationed in Stakhanov. 250 to 300 motivated and well-equipped Russians were killed. This is a big deal and a major victory. Very interesting report there, again, coming from Rock Lady on the Discord server. Our next post. Got a few here that I'm having to sift over here. Our next post here comes from Charlie Wong on the Discord server. This talks about those two British men sentenced to death after being captured fighting in Ukraine. Again, this comes from metro.co.uk. Those two British fighters who joined the fight against invading troops in Ukraine have been sentenced to death according to Russian media. Sean Pinner and Aidan Aslan were subjected to what observers have described as a show trial. I believe this is a direct response to the war crime trials we've seen occur in Kiev. More specifically, the first one that we saw. That first one that we saw in Kiev that was broadcasted all over. It was the one with the guy that he shot that elderly man. He was the tank commander. I believe this is a direct response by the Russians. They're like, okay, well, if the Ukrainians are going to do a show trial, we're going to do a show trial, and this is exactly what we're seeing here. They're basically making an example of these three fighters here. There's two British fighters and the one Moroccan. Again, the pair were in the dock alongside a Moroccan man, Saddam Brahim, in the Supreme Court of Self-Declared People's Republic of Donetsk. The court, which was set up by Moscow-backed militants who seized the territory in 2014, again, is not internationally recognized. Footage of the trial has been aired on state TV, with locals accused of trumping up charges against them for propaganda purposes by UK politicians. All three defendants were forced to plead guilty to the charges in front of TV cameras yesterday. The Foreign Office has condemned the exploitation of prisoners for war for political purposes. Again, thank you to Charlie Wong for sending that over. Our next post here comes from Tygon. Thank you, Tygon, for posting this in the Situation Room. This comes from an unverified Twitter source from earlier today by the name of Sarah Ashton Cirillo. It says, breaking news, the attack on Kharkiv right now is an attack on critical infrastructure. More to come. 14 hours ago, attacks in Kharkiv this morning. For the timestamp, it was possible to pick out the magnetic anomaly recorded in Bucharest and Istanbul, corresponding to an attack. Signal arrived at closer station Bucharest first. Very interesting. Attacks on Kharkiv by a magnetic anomaly. Interesting. Again, these are unverified. This is an unverified report, but I still feel it's worth noting here. There's a few of them actually that have come in today talking about some attacks that have occurred on Kharkiv in that area. And again, Russia has been known to use directed energy weapons before. Again, may I remind you of the Havana syndrome and the attacks that have happened on U.S. Embassy staff, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Embassy staff, I believe, were the ones that were involved in those attacks there. I believe that was Cuba, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, moving on. Tygon posted another post here in the Situation Room that I feel is worth mentioning. Again, this comes from a unverified Twitter source here. However, it is flagging me that post there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the description of that as well. It says Russian troops are preparing to flee from Melitopol, fearing the offensive of the Ukrainian army. That came from Mayor Fedorov. Again, that came from Sputnik ATO News on Twitter. There's an update from yesterday. Again, saying that Russian troops are preparing to flee from Melitopol, again, fearing an offensive of the Ukrainian army. Our next post, again, comes from Tygon here. This one I should be able to bring up. Actually, this one also got age restricted for some reason. Must be that Twitter account has been age restricted. Anyway, again, I'll read you the excerpt from that as well. It says Poland sent Ukraine most of its weapons for a total of, quote, $2 billion, including 240 tanks. Again, coming from that report. That came from Sputnik ATO News, which I believe is a Russian news source, if I'm not mistaken. Sputnik ATO, if I'm not mistaken. So with that, we're going to switch over to our live UA map. We're going to go through our open source reports here for about the past 12 hours or so. We'll start at the bottom of the 12-hour mark here. Again, to everybody that posted in the Situation Room this evening, thank you guys so much for stopping by, taking some time out of your day to share those reports with us for these live streams. Again, if you guys would like to contribute reports, you can hop over on our Discord server. That's discord.gg/Nemico, where you can contribute to those reports in the Situation Room, and you might have them mentioned here on the live stream. Mike Berry says, magnetic anomalies? What the hell? Mike Berry also says, Havana was microwave. Yes, I believe it was. Actually, I think that's the ongoing, I think that's the theory, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if they've confirmed that yet or not, but yeah, I have also heard that it was microwave for the Havana syndrome. Again, though, I wouldn't put it past Russia to be, experimenting with some energy weapons, some directed energy weapons in Ukraine. I wonder, actually, if they've used any for crowd control purposes yet. So starting here at the 12-hour mark, Security Service of Ukraine questioned 3 mercenaries. Notice an interesting similarity here. We got the mercenaries on trial and on the Russian side of things from Mariupol, and you have this report here. Questioned 3 mercenaries. So why do I feel like this is kind of a response from the Ukrainians directly to those death sentences being given out by the DPR? I feel like we might have some kind of similarity going here. Again, especially as it says, Security Service of Ukraine questioned exactly 3 mercenaries. And what did we see? The DPR, we had 3. They accused those guys of being, 3 mercenaries, right? Again, mercenaries of Europolis company connected to Prigozhin, captured in the Luhansk region. Interesting, very interesting. We're going to have to keep an eye on that news there. 12 hours ago, President Zelensky imposed sanctions against Russian top officials, including Putin. You can see a copy of the document here on screen in beautiful Ukrainian. 12 hours ago, Russian army conducted missile strike near Kramatorsk. Ukrainian military repelled reconnaissance attempt near Narhin village. Again, that came from the evening report from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. You can see there again on the map where they conducted those strikes in Kramatorsk. If you tune into our 24/7 live stream, our cam live stream out of Ukraine, we do have a wonderful skyline shot of Kramatorsk. I'm not sure if anybody clipped those explosions or if anybody got those explosions on any of the Kramatorsk cameras, but if you did, send them over my way and I'll show them on stream. I highly recommend, though, if you want to get a bird's eye view of what's going on in Ukraine at nighttime, especially when the conflict heats up, those cameras, those skyline cameras, have been extremely valuable in tracking some of these events, some of these attacks, especially that Kramatorsk cam. You can see basically the entire skyline of that city there. 12 hours ago, near Dolnya town, Ukrainian military conducted artillery strikes at gatherings of Russian troops. Again, that also came from the evening report from the General Armed Forces, the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. 12 hours ago, battles continue in Severodonetsk, again, also in that evening report. 12 hours ago, Russian forces have partial success near Kamyshenikavka and Roti, again, also coming from that evening report. 12 hours ago, at northwest outskirts of Toshkivka, Ukrainian military repelled Russian assault, again, also in that evening report. You can see where these reports are located on the map. Again, these are all geolocated. Unsinkable says, I would go ahead and clip them right now, but you don't have the stream available on Twitch, and YouTube is blocked for some reason. So what do you mean it's not available on Twitch? Do you mean like yesterday's stream? I don't think Twitch saves. I don't think they save old streams. I just don't think they do. Unless that's something I have to enable on my end. And then on YouTube, if they're over 12 hours, it doesn't save them. So again, I let them go for as long as they go, and so sometimes we don't actually, get to go through those again, especially as they are over 12 hours. Unstickable says a replay of a previous stream. You have to enable that, I think. Yeah, I think I might be able to do that on Twitch. I'll have to look into doing that so that we can have those replays available on Twitch for everybody 24/7. Kender, thank you so much for stopping by tonight. She says, so late. Well, you're not too late. Don't worry. We're just getting to our live UA map reports here. We're right here at the 10-hour mark. We went through our main headlines earlier. We went through our community aggregated stuff, and now we're doing our open source reports. We've been live since about 11 p.m. We had a late report tonight. Usually we're on at about 8 p.m. Eastern Standard, and it's now about 11:48 p.m. We started at 11 p.m., so that's about 6 a.m. Ukraine time. Mother Saki, again, thank you so much for tuning in on Twitch there. No, we were just we were talking about the 24/7 stream when it was up. It's not up now, but it will be after we're done with this evening's report. So here, 10 hours ago, the body of a local activist, Vitaly Lepchuk, was abducted from his home by the Russian military on the 27th of March, was found in a river in Kherson. Destruction in Kostotelnivka this evening. You can see where that was located on the map here. You can see a picture of the destruction in that town there. Again, you can see these destroyed buildings as they sift through the rubble there, looking for survivors. Nine hours ago, a big explosion was reported in Horolivka. We have a video for you guys, I think it's on Telegram if I'm not mistaken, showing the smoke off in the distance, billowing up into the sky. Three hours ago, an explosion reported in Dnipro City. Possible air defense. You can see a cloud in the air there. Again, that's in Dnipro, that city there on the Dnipro River. I'm going to go ahead and refresh our live UA map there because I believe we... that might be... actually, so we did have our sirens. Our nightly sirens came in, and I'll read those off to you guys now. About 3 hours ago, Kirohohradska Oblast, Cherkasska Oblast, all red alert. Odessa Oblast, Mykolivska Oblast, Sumatska Oblast, Kryvyi Rih, Poltavska Oblast, Donetsk Oblast, Kharkivska Oblast, Kharkiv and Kharkivska Oblast again, all had aerial alert sirens. If you scroll on the map, you can see all these blue circles here are where those alerts sounded. And with that, that concludes our open source reports from Live UA Map. I'll now take a few questions and read a few comments from our live chats, both on YouTube and Twitch and Discord. I see a few of you guys also still talking about the Havana syndrome and the directed energy weapons. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take a look. I'm gonna kind of do a deep dive into those reports of the attacks in Kherson and whatever the magnetic anomaly that they allegedly reported. I'm not I'm not saying any of that's confirmed as of this time. We got to go and I'm gonna try to dig deeper into that and see if there's any substance to any of those reports. Not Pocky, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Says I like it late because I can't get here earlier for a month or so. Well, Pocky, you're in luck tonight this evening. I was running a little bit behind today, so we did have a little bit of a late night report tonight. I like it though. I like it. Lauxi46 says, see the successful hypersonic missile launch by the USA? I have not seen that, no. Is that something that happened today or recently? Loxy46 also says, thank you for going above and beyond to counter Russian propaganda. Don't have to thank us for enjoying clear, concise, unbiased, fact-based news. And I try to make it known here that we're not just countering Russian propaganda, we're countering all propaganda, okay? Because there's propaganda on all sides. That's just the nature of war. That's just in the fog of war, in the chaos, information gets skewed, okay? It's very hard to get facts, all right? It's just how it works, all right? And so getting the facts is very important, all right? And the best way to do that is just to look at factual data. Looking at things like these open source intelligence maps, things that have been geolocated, things that are known to be factual. Going in, looking at things like those radioactive monitoring stations, looking at things like the air pollution sites, looking at things like the CCTV cameras, right? Being able to see, okay, well, yep, there are troops here, or hey, yeah, there has been an attack here. Extremely valuable information. It's the only way to paint the fuller picture, is to piece together these little pieces here that we're constantly going through from a lot of these open source, a lot of these resources that we have available at our disposal. Stephen Gregory says, okay, Nemico, sir, is the counterattack doing well? Well, there has been, if you're talking about Ukrainian counterattacks, there has been a few, and most of them have been successful. We haven't seen any major Ukrainian counteroffensives yet, especially in the Donbas. We have, if you're speaking about Severodonetsk, we haven't seen any major counteroffensive there in Severodonetsk yet. They're still holding out in that industrial zone. We're gonna have to wait to see how that plays out. Loxy46, thank you so much for these kind words. He says that's an extremely based point to make, and that's why you're the only news that I watch. Yeah, and I try as much as I possibly can to not get. You can't get one-sided. You can't get skewed to one side of the spectrum or the other. Of course, my heart goes out to the Ukrainians, to the civilians there that are being displaced, that are being affected by this war, to the servicemen that are losing their lives. Of course, I side with Ukraine as they are, on the defensive. The Russians are, of course, the occupier. They are the invading force. When it comes down to getting the news out to you guys, though, again, as I said before, the fog of war skews information on all sides, and there's a lot to sift through. And again, it's like an uphill battle, as they like to say. And it's constantly getting more difficult, especially as the war goes on. Good factual information gets harder and harder to come by. Some of these sources, come under attack. We've seen things like live UA map earlier in the war came under cyber attacks and was being manipulated by the Russians. And so you can't trust anything. You have to, even for like our open source tools, we often have multiple. For one thing, like if you're talking about like a naval radar, for instance, we're talking about naval vessels, right? We don't just use one source for tracking naval vessels. We use multiple. For the air raid alert sirens, we don't just use one source of municipal data. We use multiple sources of municipal data. All right, and so you're able to correlate and cross-reference data and be like, okay, yep, this is factual. We know for a fact this is what's going on. Miss Tiger, I thank you so much for tuning in. Says I'm still here, just lurking. Well, glad to have you lurking. And honestly, I mean, I tell people you don't have to always tune into the live chat. You don't have to join the discussion. Just lurking and getting informed is half the battle. Titan Intel, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Says the fog of war is real and things move super quickly. That cannot be overstated. The fog of war is extremely real on all sides of the conflict. As I've talked about last night, propaganda is not just a tool used by one side of a war. Propaganda is a weapon in the same way, in the same regard as a Kalashnikov. All sides use propaganda. All right. The difference between the Ukrainians and the Russians, though, is that the Russians use fabrication. They don't just use propaganda; they use all-out fabrication at times, and we have proven this multiple times on the show. They are an invading force. They're going to use every tool in their disposal to accomplish their goals, to accomplish their means. And one of those tools has been to all-out fabricate news, to aid in their narrative building, to aid in their propaganda building. But as I said before, and I'll say it again, there's been bad information on all sides of the spectrum. I've gotten information from Ukrainian sources that has ended up turning out to be, to be false. Somebody will say a strike happened here, and then we find out, hours later that actually it happened over here, and that in the heat of the battle, things just, got lost in translation. All right. It's like a big game of telephone. I don't know if any of you played the telephone game when you were a kid in school. You have a big long line of people, and at the end, the information coming out the end is just totally different from what went in at the start. Hugo says, any ideas on the status of the arrival of M142 HIMARS missile systems to Ukraine? I've heard a lot of talk of them being sent over. I still haven't heard anything of them arriving in country. However, it's a possibility that we won't know that they're there until they're there. As we've seen with some of the other weapon systems sent in, we don't know that they're there in theater until they're there in theater. With something like the HIMARS, it might be one of those systems that we won't know that they're sending until they sent them. Okay, that's to protect the operational security, the OPSEC, of those assets going into the country. And of course, you want to, if you're going to use something like the HIMARS system, you might want to have the upper hand of surprise. Speedy Squirrel says I'm grocery shopping while listening. Speedy Squirrel, that just absolutely gives me the fizz, man, knowing that you're pushing a grocery cart through a market right now, listening to the live stream. I hope the food prices aren't too bad there in the UAE. I actually had a buddy that lived in the UAE for quite a while. I wonder if he is still stateside or not. But interesting to hear about your gas prices earlier, Speedy, and also it's interesting to hear that you're listening to us from the grocery store right now. That's awesome, man. I hope your grocery shopping goes well, and I hope you get everything that you need. Michelle Welch says, is the U.S. still sending in weapons over to Ukraine? Yes. Yes, without a doubt, they are still sending many, 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 many weapon systems. And I guarantee you, in the coming weeks, we're going to hear more spending packages pass through the House, more aid packages being sent to Ukraine. I guarantee we're going to hear more on that. Not Pocky says Ukrainian UN representative was on TV last night. I think it was on Colbert. I have to, if that was, yeah, I have to see that. I haven't seen that yet, but I need to go watch that because that sounds like it would be an excellent interview. He says he was awesome, strong, and not talking any twisted narratives. That's another difference between the Ukrainians and the Russians, okay, is that when the Ukrainian officials go on TV, They're not talking some crazy off-the-wall narratives. I don't know if any of you guys have watched the UN Security Council meetings and the statements that the Russian Federation made in the early days of the war, but some of them were so off the wall. It was like, what are they talking about? Some of it just didn't even make sense. Some of it, like if they were like some of it, kind of stuck to their concise narrative, but some of it was just totally out there. Like, what are you guys talking about? What does this have to do with the current situation? Why are you even bringing this up? Again, it's nice to see the Ukrainian officials. They like to stick to, the facts. They're much more down to earth. I've noticed kind of a trend, kind of a pattern there, and this is coming from, again, I'm a neutral bystander. I try to as much as I can when it comes to reporting and observing this. I try to be a neutral bystander, and I've noticed that. I've noticed that you see these Russian officials. They come out on television. They come out for interviews, and they just have these off the wall. And even when they know that that they're not, even when they're confronted with the fact that they're not telling the truth, they just continue on with this. Again, they've been instructed to do so. It's part of war, all right, and it's part of what they've been instructed to do. Any of these officials, any of these Russian officials at least, that are seen on TV have been instructed exactly what to say on television at all times, especially when giving any sort of interview with Western media. Speedy Squirrel says things are expensive. $50 for 6 items. Oof. Oof, that sounds rough. That is pretty rough. Paddywhack says, crap, I passed out. LOL, I'm back or awake, doing laundry, bill cleaning all day. Well, Paddywhack, I hope you get some sleep. I know we are having a little bit of a late report tonight, but it's a good one. It's a good report. Unstinkable. Unstinkable says, it's like a kindergartner saying he didn't eat the chocolate with his mouth covered in it. And I feel like when we watched those UN Security Council meetings, when we watched the Russian Federation giving those statements, I believe a lot of you guys said that, made that statement, that it's like a kindergartner saying he didn't eat chocolate with his mouth covered in it, It was kind of the same right back to the beginning of the war when they were like, okay, we're not going to invade Ukraine, but at the same time, the whole border's stacked with Russian, hardware, with troops. Like, no, we're not gonna invade, And so again, yeah, exactly. It's just like, again, a kindergartner saying, he didn't eat the chocolate when the evidence is right in front of everybody's face. HM Producer says, hi, everyone. Hello. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight, HM Producer. I hope you didn't miss the whole report, but if you did, don't worry. I'll be uploading it to YouTube right after we are done here live. Dirk Klavispieler says, Nemico Network, why do you think President Zelensky will not accept Russia and Turkey's promise to allow Ukraine food shipments from their southern ports? I don't think it's a matter of them accepting the promise. I think it's a matter of them not believing it, because they have multiple times broke those promises. Almost every time during the war that Russia said, okay, yeah, we'll allow a civilian corridor, or we'll allow for this humanitarian corridor, somebody somewhere breaks that agreement. Some shots are fired, fires exchanged, and the next thing you know, there's an all-out battle happening. We've seen this happen multiple times, and so that's a big possibility. And they're putting sailors at risk, And so I think for the Ukrainians, for Zelensky, he wants the UN to get involved. He wants the West to get involved. He wants a corridor to be set up from those ports out of Ukraine. That's the only way I think they would actually go through with it. Lauksteve46 says, posted a link to the hypersonic missile test article in the Discord random news. If anybody wants to go check that out. I'm going to check that out later, Laukski, and I might show that on tomorrow's report. Doompie tuning in tonight, coming in clutch with tonight's weather forecast out of Kiev. 0800, 22 degrees centigrade, sunny wind northeast. About 12 kilometers an hour. Sunrise 04:47. Sunset 21:08. Doompie, as always, thank you so much for hopping in and giving us that that weather report. Highly appreciated. HM Producer says Nemico Network. I missed everything, so sorry. No problem, HM Producer. You can always scroll back or catch the upload when I upload it to the channel. I'll be uploading it right after we're done here tonight. Unstinkable says, Nemico Network, could it be the case that they sentence those 3 to death and hope Ukraine offers some sort of prisoner exchange? It could possibly happen. It could happen. We want to keep our hopes up. We want to stay hopeful. And again, especially when we just saw earlier tonight, and I'll show you again if I scroll down here. Right here, Security Service of Ukraine questioned 3 mercenaries. So the Ukraine has 3 mercenaries, and Russia has 3 mercenaries. So again, we're going to have to see what comes of that, maybe. Again, to everybody that stopped by tonight, thank you guys so much for swinging by to get informed on what's going on in the Ukraine war today. Again, this has been our Ukraine war report for the 9th of June. It's now the 10th of June. It's now right past midnight where we are here on the East Coast. It's morning in Ukraine. I believe it's 7 a.m. in Ukraine at this hour. Again, my heart goes out to everybody that is affected in Ukraine. Huge thanks to everybody that stopped by tonight. Huge thanks to all of my mods in the chats, both on YouTube, Twitch, and Discord. Thank you guys so much for keeping a lid on things and keeping things under control over there. I know the YouTube chats and the Twitch chats can be like the Wild West sometimes, but I love it. You guys are great. Thank you guys so much for not only contributing to the discussions, but contributing to the evening's reports over on the Situation Room and everything else that you guys do. You can catch new reports every weekday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 3 a.m. Ukraine time. Sorry, I get a little confused sometimes with those time conversions there. 3 a.m. Ukraine time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to try to make it back here tomorrow, Friday, to cap out our week here. So catch us tomorrow again, guys, for our live report on Ukraine. If you're looking for any of our links to any of our sources, any of the links to anything you need, you can find it in the description below this stream, below the video, depending on how you're watching this. If you can't find it there, you can find it over on the Discord server. That's discord.gg/Nemico. Anybody is welcome to join. You can come and join our wonderful community over there that we're building. Come and join the discussions. Probably one of the best resources for up-to-date information on what's going on in Ukraine, besides these reports, is the Discord server itself. Wonderful resource, wonderful people over there. Everybody is welcome to join. We'd love to have you. We're going to be doing a whole bunch of work over there in the coming weeks to improve stuff. We have a whole bunch of community feedback and stuff that we've gathered over recent weeks and months, and we've begun to start implementing that stuff slowly. And in the coming weeks, we hope to make a lot of improvements. We're going to be setting up a lot of new things over there, again, to increase the quality of life for everybody over there on the Discord server and help aid this exchange of information that we've been doing, this aggregation of beautiful reporting and data that we have done here. We also have the website coming down the pipeline as well that we've been working on for a while here. Things got a little delayed on that, but it's coming your guys' way, so stay tuned for that, as well as new video content. I got some interviews coming down the pipeline for you guys that I'm pretty excited about. We're going to have Mehmet at some point back on the show. I actually told him that eventually we're going to be doing one night we're going to do like a video game stream. We're going to do some gaming. He likes to play a lot of Valorant and some online shooters, so we might play a couple games together on stream and hang out for a few hours. We'd love to do that with you guys. We also have some video content coming down the pipeline for you guys. We've been working on our every year I do a thing. It's called a firework a day, where we launch a different firework every day, basically for the whole summer. We just got started right around Memorial Day with that. We actually started a little bit late this year. Usually I start at Memorial Day and I go all the way till about Labor Day for those, or even right up till New Year's, I think I did last year. But anyway, catch those if you guys like those. We got a whole bunch of different content coming down the pipeline. I'm really excited to be bringing you guys some of that stuff. Been absolutely swamped here, but we're going to get the ball rolling on it for you. Let me see. If you haven't already, hit the like button. Again, it's the best way to get the algorithm's attention, get the information into a lot a lot more people's hands, get people informed on what's going on. Again, as I say, that's half the battle. Our 24/7 cam stream will be right back up after this stream is done, so don't go anywhere. Don't tune out, because the 24/7 cam stream, it will be on screen after this is done. We are currently we have a single full screen layout that I'm running this week. I might switch back to the multi-stream layout, but I'm running this because there was quite a few people that run on mobile and were requesting this. I had a lot of PMs of people that wanted just a full screen cam setup, which it's like multicam, but instead of having the grid, you just have them all full screen, and then they cycle through the different cameras. So we're going to be running that for this evening. We might switch later over into the multicam layout. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Again, this has been our Ukraine War Report for the 9th of June, 2022. Steve Gregory says, Nemico, consider a snack bar, please. That is a hell of an idea. Hell of an idea. We might do that. All right, guys, thank you so much. Until next time, guys, you're watching Nemico Network.
Something that will change our daily lives, that will change history, 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 that will change history. That will be the most beautiful day.